How long have you been telling yourself you'll do it someday? I think a lot of us are really good at showing up for everybody else, but not always good at showing up for our own life. Today's conversation is about what happens when you finally decide to stop waiting and live a life on the go. I met today's guest at an RV Creators Workshop in Tampa, and yes, we bonded immediately. Well, Joanie and Joanie. What really stuck with me was this. She's living a life now that she once postponed, and she's willing to talk about both sides of that. Welcome to Big Talk at the Table. I'm Joanie Lee, and today we're having one of those conversations that I think a lot of people need to hear, especially if you've been telling yourself someday a little too long. Because today's guest isn't just talking about a different kind of life, she is actually out there living it. Her motto right now is on the go. And baby, it fits her perfectly. She and her husband sold the house. They let go of what they used to define as their life, and they stepped into something completely different. A life full of travel, adventure, and a kind of freedom she wasn't always sure that she was ready for or she even believed in. So, welcome my guest, Joanie. I'm so glad you're here. And let's start right off where we met.
We met at the Tampa RV show, somewhere we had not really had on our game plan. Like, we did not have Tampa, but I was talking to some other RVers and I was watching on social media that this was the place that we should go. And I was starting out as a content creator in the RV space. I'd already been one in the wellness area, but not in the RV space. And I wanted to meet other RVers who were doing what we were doing. And we changed our plan and went to Tampa. And matter of fact, we didn't really go to Tampa. We had to drive an hour in every day, right, to get there. And I signed up for that RV Creators Workshop. And that's where you and I met right away. Well, first we bonded because our names were Joanie. How many Joanies out there, right, in the world?
Yes.
And then we found out we have the same middle name as well, which I was like, I said, we are kindred spirits. And so I am completely honored that you asked me to speak today. So thank you.
So a little bit about that event that we met at. Same thing it was not on my radar. In fact, I had kind of just started my RV life. And I wasn't sure about being a content creator. I really wasn't into showing my life of how I clean the RV or my black tanks, all of that. But something just kept drawing me, like, I need to go to this event. And so I went, and I was deer in headlights. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing there. I had no idea why I was there. And I meet you. And then not only do I meet you, who has the same name and same middle name as me, we meet a third Joanie there. So in the RV creator world, there's three of us. And I think that's pretty spectacular. So
Agree.
We met, and, you do such a great job of showing your life on the road. And that was never my calling, but you do such a great job of it. I know I was following you before I even met you at the creators event. And I was following you because I had seen you on some of my RV groups that I had belonged to. This lady looks super fun, and she has the same name as me, and I would love to get to know her better.
Wow.
And
I did not know that.
So you never know who's really out there paying attention to what you're putting out into the world, right? And I think that's such a really cool thing that social media and the internet allows us to kind of connect with each other that way. And so she is in Tampa, same name, and I had no idea your backstory. I didn't know that you weren't planning on going there. And I do believe that, everything has a purpose and everyone crosses your path for a reason. And so I'm so glad that you crossed mine. And we're sitting here today having this amazing conversation about this fabulous life that you're leading now. So I
feel
want you
blessed.
to kind of tell us how you, who are you on the road with?
Well, I am on the road with the other half, Joe. So we are on the go with Joanie and Joe. Gotcha. So I am, Joanie, a 35-year physical education teacher, teaching little elementary kids a life of wellness and fun and movement. So on the go has kind of always been the way I've lived my life, but within the parameters of having to teach for 35 years before I could move on to our next life. We just couldn't give up the pension that comes with being a teacher. And I'm on the road with my hubby, Joe. We've been married for 34 years. It'll be 35 in August. And we just are like, wow, we're living this life that we just couldn't even imagine being in our technically 9 to 5. We loved our life. Don't get me wrong. We loved our life before RV. But, I was going all day. I would wake up and work out before work. I would go teach elementary PE all day. And then at 5 o'clock, I'd go play pickleball for 2 hours, get home at 7:30. And all those great meals that Joe cooks on the road, he'd have waiting for me when I'd get home. And I did that 5 days a week. It was like, I don't know how I survived, right?
Well, for those that don't know what she's talking for those who don't know what she's talking about, she does, you're going to have to follow her, but she does a thing where it's called Joe Cooks and Joanie Eats.
Oh my gosh. Well, Joe now thinks it should be called RV Eating yet. So we're kind of transitioning a little bit. It's really kind of cool. Joe just loves to cook. And that's how we picked the RV that we're in, is because it's technically called a grand kitchen, so that he wouldn't skip a beat. So we just feel blessed that we're living this life that we could only imagine would be so amazing. We're floored.
So your RV life looks so fun and so full, and you do a great job of like bringing all of that to life, I think, through social media. But tell me, what was your life like before RV life? You talked a little bit about your PE, your teaching, but what did it look like for you?
So for me, it was always living for the weekends, living for the holidays. And as a teacher, we got lots of holidays, living for the summer. I loved my job teaching PE. Like, I just loved it. Like, it wasn't something that it was a drudgery. I loved it till the last minute. My first school I taught in, I just got message that it is closing, and I cried, right? And I'm getting all these messages from all these kids that I taught throughout the years. And so I had a very rewarding career. But when I got the numbers, I was like, you know what? It's time to move on. We're healthy. We're young. It's time to be able to move on. I had a great community before we went on the road. I had my pickleball community that I was very tied to. And matter of fact, I had to postpone our beginning life to stay around Pennsylvania for like 3 months so I could go to a pickleball girls weekend, because I'm not willing to give up community. And so Joe was a carpenter for 35 years, like amazing, was a finished carpenter. He made custom charcuterie boards. If you could see our table that I know you probably have seen the post. It's so stunningly beautiful, but he was ready to be done. He was like, I've done this. There's something more, but we did set ourselves up for retirement well.
And so you had a little bit of help, I think, in this part of the story, because your parents traveled this lifestyle for quite a few years, right?
Yes.
Looking at that, did you ever think when you were watching them do it that you would be doing this at some point in your life?
So when the kids were little, we have a daughter, Kelly, and a son, Paul. They're right now 31 and 28. And when they were younger, we did camp. We called it camping. We camped every other weekend. We had a couple other couples, we had family, and we camped. And we would camp with my mom and dad. My mom and dad, full-time RVers for 27 years. They just recently had to stop being full-time, but we have planned a week with them in Downingtown. I'm so excited when we go back home. So we did have the camping thing, right? And we held on to some of the camping things in our basement in our home for like 20 years, right? We had to stop camping because our children were very heavily involved in sports. And we were at tournaments constantly from every other weekend up to every weekend. And as I told you, it worked out because our daughter, played college field hockey at the University of Maryland. She was on the national team for field hockey for Team USA, represented the United States at the Olympics. like a lifelong dream of our families. So, you know what, giving up camping during that stretch of our time was important. We just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, we couldn't afford international trips to watch Kelly play
Right.
field hockey or afford all the tournaments that we went to, and also fit that in. So we gave it up. Now, funny story, I lost track of time, but forever, Joe, every time we saw somebody drive by with a camper, he'd say, "They're camping, they're camping." I think Joe had a subliminal message for like 10 years. All right. And so now we laugh about it. I'm like, we're camping. Oh, no, we're RVing, whatever word you want to use.
Yes.
So we watched my mom and dad for 27 years. We spent a little bit of time with them out on the road, and just kind of felt natural. We loved our life in Honeybrook. We loved it. That's our hometown. But our kids weren't there anymore and they weren't coming back. One's in Charlotte and one's in Washington State. We're in Washington State right now on our way to spend a good quality, like 6 weeks with Paul and his wife, Ashley. Kelly will be flying out. Kelly loves sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
But
this is now your home, right? So kids are going to come to you wherever you are, or you're going to go to them wherever they are. And exactly. I think that a lot of women can relate to that, because a lot of kids, wherever they grew up, they're not coming back. Like it's a different generation right now. They're not staying put and staying in the small communities like maybe we grew up in. And they're wanting to experience the world too.
Yes. And that's why we said, this is the time. We planned our retirement. I retired in June because that's the end of the school year. I told Joe he had to wait until August because teachers don't get paid in the summer and I wasn't going to get a pension check. And then one day in July, he looked at me, he said, "I'm done on Tuesday." I'm like, "Okay, we're done." Yeah, I had enough. I can't wait.
I think that's probably, so many people can relate to that, because a little bit of that is like, it's the fear of the unknown, right? And it's the fear of you're not in your comfort zone anymore. And so, like, it gets to the point where he's just like, okay, we got to take action. Like, we planned. And I want to say, what do you think for women out there who have this dream? And trust me, my dream was never to travel in an RV. I hate camping. That was not my dream. And
I remember you said that.
So I would have been driving by those people in the camper being like, dummies, they're camping. Like, they're camping. I would have had a different reaction than Joe's comment, but mine would have been so different. But here I am, and I love the life that I'm living right now. But what would you say to those women? And maybe it's not the dream of camping, but maybe it's just a dream of doing something else with their life. What would be kind of a word of encouragement that you could give them?
You said it. It's like we get stuck in our comfort zone and what we do day in and day out, that we don't even realize the time and the days are slipping away until it's all of a sudden you're like, oh man. Like, and then I think some people, women might feel like, well, I'm too old to do that. I can't, you're not. If it's in your heart, you will find a way to make it work. And I'm fortunate enough to have Joe, who more than he kind of put it onto my heart as well, because I kind of resisted for a while. We're talking, all the years he was saying they're going camping, I kind of resisted, I was like, nah. And then all of a sudden I was just like, you know what? There's so much out there in this world that we're now seeing. And yesterday we're driving the truck on a beach in Washington State, which I can't believe Joe did. And just on Friday, we were snowshoeing in Mount Rainier. Like,
yes,
stark differences. And it's because we simply just said, let's just go. Let's just go. Let's just figure it out as we go. And I think some people have a hard time just figuring it out as you go.
Well, that was my next question to you, which is like, for the woman who's listening, who's like, and it sounds like you were a little bit like this, like, I'm going to wait for the perfect timing, right? Like, I want to wait till August. I want to wait till the pickleball. Like, there'll always be, I'm going to wait for, right? So what would be
Yep.
like your best, like, words of encouragement to the, I'm going to wait for the perfect timing.
There is no perfect timing. Life is a mess, right? And it just depends on how you figure it out, but you can wait forever. And as I said, and all of a sudden you'll be like, what did I wait for? Why did I wait? So you know how Nike says, just do it? Just do it. Whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's live in an RV for, and travel, or if you want to start being a pickleball player, you know what I mean? You just have to find that. I know, I'm like, there are people who play pickleball because they don't know, you know what I mean? And they want to play, and they see, right. And they see people playing and people posting about it. So we're talking as simple as that. And I know what I try to do is, in my posting, I want to show people that this is something that's doable. And believe me, anybody I see on a pickleball court, I welcome them in, and I will teach them and show them how to play, because I just want other people to do that.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing with women, and we need more women like you and I in the world, because I had the same experience with golf in Florida this winter. I wanted to play golf, and there was a league, and I didn't know anybody playing, but some women were playing. I was like, well, I'm going to sign up to play. I'm not good at golf. I love golf, but I'm not out there to like win some sort of championship or whatever. And so I went out for the fun of it. And the minute I went out and I just got it out of my head, I don't care what these people think of me. I had the best time, met the best people. And then what happened was I found women who were staying in the same RV park as me who also wanted to play golf. But guess what? They were afraid, the same thing as me, and they just didn't have enough in them to go take action. And so it takes women like us to kind of sometimes tell them it's okay. You don't have to be good at it. You don't have to, show up with a championship ring on. We're just going to come and have fun. So it's talking about including women, right? Just being inclusive. Yeah.
Percent. Women, I think we get in our heads too much, and we don't do things because we don't have a friend to do it with. One thing that RV life has taught me is that I have to put myself out there. I talk to everybody, and sometimes Joe is like, really? So the best story happened yesterday. We were at the Walmart in Aberdeen, Washington, because it was the closest store. It was 37 minutes from the campground, but it was the closest one. And we get back to the milk aisle, and there were like 10 people standing at the milk aisle. And we're like, what the heck? So of course I strike up a conversation with somebody, because that's what I do. And I struck up a conversation with this elderly woman, and I was like, you guys are waiting for milk? And she's like, yeah. And I said, well, we're in an RV, right? And she goes, oh, my niece owns an RV park. And I go, where? And she's like, in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm staying at that RV park for 6 weeks coming up at the end of the summer. And ends up being, I'm
awesome.
Friends with her. Right. Like, you know what I mean? So I was willing to just strike up a random conversation with somebody. Then I'm taking a selfie and sending it to the owner of the RV park in Downingtown. And I made her day, and I made this Auntie Anne's Day, because like right now it's me and Joe, right? Joe got his wish. He got me for 24/7, 365, right? So, and we still love each other. It's amazing, right?
I was going to say, is he rethinking that wish yet?
No, not at all. Are you kidding? He's like, this is amazing. We have to put ourselves out there. And, that's a comfort zone thing as well. And I love people. I love chatting with people. I love hearing their stories and learning about them and finding some common connection. That's how we got connected.
Yes. And I agree with all of that. I am the same way. I am by myself So it's a little different because I have to go talk to people because I've got nobody here now to talk with other than if I'm doing a podcast and I'm telling somebody's story. But my everyday life, I really put myself out there and I really just try and find one thing to connect with somebody with. And then it seems to find that when it's like you and I, when you are really real, when you're really genuine, when you really care, and people can tell that, they end up telling you their life story and they've met you all of 5 minutes. And that's the difference, right? And that's really what this podcast is all about. It's talking about big talk. It's talking about, not the small fluff stuff. It's making yourself be real. Yes, you had these fears. Yes, you felt this way. But once you've done it, you're here to tell other women, hey, you can do this. You could do the hard thing, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing. If I strike up for a conversation and they don't respond, I just keep moving on. You know what I mean? It's okay that not everybody is going to have my vibe, and that's
right.
okay.
Yes.
But I genuinely believe as humans that we crave connection, and that is our lifeline, whatever that connection. And do I miss my pickleball crew? Definitely. And you know what? But I found a pickleball crew when I went to Viewpoint RV Park when we were in Mesa. And they were at the end like, you have to leave. Can't you come back? We're going to come back next year, but we're going to stay longer, right? So I will go back to that RV community again because the people were so welcoming. And, but we've got to be honest. I also went to a community that was not kind and welcoming and didn't make me feel good at all.
Right. No, and that's what I want a lot of listeners to take away from this, because it's not just in the RV community, right? It's in our own communities. So if we're not being women who we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing, which is uplifting other women, then we're not doing any of our communities any good, right? Whether it's RV community, whether it's your own community, it's about opening up your table to invite those others in. Because I had this conversation with someone else and I was like, it's just like grade school. Do you remember when you were walking out of the lunch line and you had your plate of food and it's elementary school and you have to find a table to sit at? And I didn't have one group of friends that I sat with every day. So every day I remember that pit in my stomach, taking my tray off of there and turning around and looking at this big room and crap, where am I going to sit? And I know that kids feel that way today too, but we as adults, we still feel that same. There's that little girl still inside of us pulling that lunch tray off the line going, crap, is somebody going to welcome me into this group or not? And so I'm hoping that this podcast will enlighten women to see, what kind of woman are you being to your community? Are you being the welcoming woman? Or are you being the one that looks down and just keeps eating and doesn't look at that person because you don't want to make eye contact with them?
That is such a great analogy and brought back some memories, right? Maybe not so fond memories.
I was going to say, right? Right.
One thing that
I should have used a better example. I should have said gym class. This is another one that hits home to me. Remember we played that game where there'd be one side, the kids were on one side, the kids were on the other side, and they had to pick teams, like kickball or something.
Yes.
And you never wanted to be the last one picked.
So I was not that kind of PE teacher, right? So
good. But of course you weren't.
I still am connected with kids, thank God, through social media. Kids that I taught 20, 25 years ago. And so many of them have reached out to me throughout the years, and I value that. Why? Because back in the day at my first school that I was at 12 years ago, I ran a jump rope program, and it was a demonstration team called the Jazzy Jumpers. And so many of them over the years have said, Mrs. LePage, that was my greatest childhood memory. And that's what I wanted for my kids, that I have taught over the years, that they would value activity, and that they still have that community that they were Jazzy Jumpers, and they're like, we still brag about it, So I wasn't that kind of PE teacher. I was the kind that wanted everybody to love what they were doing. But, in this RV community, because like, let's say Joe and I have just been Joe and I for probably about a month. Like I haven't had pickleball for about a month, right? And it's just me and him. So where do I find other community that's not maybe physical?
Can you hear me?
Well, you have the She Roams community, which is for women who are RVers. I don't know if you've heard of them. Nomadic influencers. Those are all, and most of them are all women that I am in a group thread with, that I can chat with and run ideas off of. The Learn to RV crew that you have a podcast with, they're amazing. I feel like with social media, we can build that kind of community and then hopefully meet up out in the real world, which is what I thrive for. Like I randomly, a couple reached out to us and we were chit-chatting and we found out we're both going to be in the same campground for the same 3 weeks. And I was like, I don't know who you are, but I hope you're not axe murderers because we're going to get together. My daughter, Kelly, our daughter, always laughs. She's like, because mom will meet anybody. And she's like, are you sure they're safe, mom? Yes, they're safe, Kelly.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm the same way. And I met somebody in Tennessee and he owned a flower shop. And he was like, do you want to come and set up a wedding with me? Yeah, I want to go. So he came and he picked me up. We went to this most beautiful, beautiful spot in Tennessee for a wedding reception. Summit, up on this beautiful mountain. We're driving up the mountain and he looks at me and he goes, you were okay coming with me? And I was like, yeah, I don't think my kids were all that excited about it, but I felt like okay. And he goes, this is my favorite line. Yeah, what are the chances that we're both serial killers?
Right.
You're right. It's being trusting. It's trusting your gut. Yes, trusting your gut. But you know what, though? It is putting yourself out there and it is opening up to, you're right, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea and you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but we are somebody's cup of tea. And so it's by opening yourself up, you put yourself out there to find your village. If you don't open yourself up, you're not going to find your village.
And this lifestyle could become very, very lonely, if you didn't have it. I mean, you're a single woman doing this and you just can't talk to your dog all day. You know what I mean?
That's part of life, right? I mean, I did have her and now you're right. And now I don't. I have to get out. I make myself get out and talk to 3 people every day, at least 3. And right. I have to get out of the RV because so much of my life is doing this and being in the RV that I have to take a break and I have to have that downtime and I have to go meet people and interact with people because I crave community. I love people. I love their stories. And that's what, yes, same thing. All right. So I have a question for you. I have a question that I ask each of my guests. It's called Be Honest. So be honest. I want to ask about the tutus. So how many tutus did you own? How many? And did any of the tutus make the RV closet?
So I got the first part of the question, which was how many tutus did I own? And I had probably...
Did any make the RV?
Joe's here right now. Joe would not let any of them. Not that he wouldn't let them. So I did have a obsession with tutus. Being an elementary physical education teacher, it was just a gimmick and the kids loved it. And if a little kid had a tutu on and I was wearing one too, it made them feel special. And I loved to dress up. I was a Dalmatian for the first day of school. I did my post yesterday about May the 4th be with you. It was my first time not to dress up like Chewbacca or R2D2, or CP3O. For my 60th birthday, my running buddy surprised me with a pink tutu that we were matching, and we did a mud run together. It just is, we were literally the only ones in pink tutus running a mud run. When I retired, all my girlfriends, and I didn't know this, I showed up at, we had a bar crawl through the town of Westchester, which is where I taught. So imagine there were 20, 25 of us all in tutus doing a bar crawl through Westchester. I saw a few students that night, and it was fun. And not one of them made the RV.
One.
Not one.
Oh.
I don't know if the people out in the world here could handle Joanie coming in with a tutu, because they wouldn't know
could. I really think they
know my backstory. They'd be like, "What the heck?" So instead, I have these really cute outfits I wear all the time, right? So
yes.
So they are in the storage unit back in our hometown. We have a little storage unit, and I could not part with all of them. So I donated a few to her, but none made the RV. You know, our closets are not big enough. And yeah.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to bring us back to the tutus because that's just my fun. That's my fun question. But I love the tutu thing. I hope you go back and steal one out of your storage unit and bring it along. But I want to know, you brought up a storage unit, and that's the one thing I want to kind of talk about. And I didn't want to skip over this before we end. Sold your house, sold your cars, downsized into a storage unit, got rid of most of your stuff. Scary or freeing? Or a little bit of both?
So it was remarkably freeing, right? Remarkably.
Yes.
We had lived in that house for 30 years, loved our house. We had an in-ground pool with the most fabulous sunset. We had parties there all the time. We loved our home, right? And when we decided, we literally put the house on the market. It sold within a week, luckily. We had 2 months till closing, and we sold everything within that 2 months. It was a heck of a 2 months. And we launched on August 14th. In that 2 months, Joe would crack up because I would have something on Facebook Marketplace and the person would come to buy it. And I'm like, would you like to walk around the inside of my house and go for your own little personal garage sale? Joe was like, seriously, they're strangers. I'm like, I don't care. They want to buy it. There were certain things that we couldn't part with. Joe had built a really cool bar, and the top was solid mahogany, had a built-in AC/DC board. It was stunning. And he couldn't, obviously we were not going to part with that,
Right.
So and then I have like, whoever was a scrapbooker back in the day, I got like 32 scrapbooks. What am I going to do with those? The kids don't want them. All the tutus.
Well, you had to save the tutus too. So you had to get a storage unit.
Now, here's the thing. I told Joe, we're only having that storage unit for a year. So in August, we have to make some decisions. And here's why. My parents had their storage unit for 25 years. 25 years they paid for that storage unit, and they paid for it. It was in my hometown because they had lived in New York before they went on the road. So they brought all their stuff down to, because they were only going to be on the road for a year. 25 years
later. 25.
Yeah, year 25, they had the yard sale. So they haven't had the storage unit now for 2 years. I was like, we're not going to be those people. We're not gonna. Like, we have to figure out what to do with that stuff because we paid for the storage unit for a year. And it's hard.
You said freeing because, yes, it is hard, but it's not scary. And I'm so glad you said freeing because that's exactly how I felt. It was so freeing. It was unclogging my life. That's really what started it all for me, was starting to get rid of materialistic things. But then I realized it wasn't just all the material things. There was way more healing that I had to do. So I'm glad you said freeing because that's exactly how I felt too, it was freeing. And so I think a lot of women are scared to get rid of things that are sentimental, oh, my kid's first tooth, or oh, this. And there are some things like that I kept too, but not a hoard of them. And so it can be, but once you start doing it, you're like, oh, this feels great. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's a freedom.
It really, so many people talk about living in an RV, you're free, you got freedom. Well, there's some freedoms. Yes, of course, like freedom to move wherever you want to do. But, obviously it's not all waterfalls and beautiful hikes. There's the other parts that also, you end up in the repair shop, or you have a split in your tire and you have to put your plans on hold. We do feel free in the fact that we have our RV truck, and that storage unit. That part is we're going to have to get rid of that part. So I think people and women are attached to their things But we had mentally prepared ourselves for that. We had a whole year to
Yeah.
mentally kind of prepare for that, because the postponing part, I had planned on retiring at 59, but then found out that it was better to retire at 60. And so I worked a
So
whole extra
that's a
year.
different, so that's wise planning, right? That's not fear. That's not
No.
postponing it because of fear. That's postponing it because of some wise planning, right? And there is a
Oh,
difference
100%.
between those two things. Yeah. So I want to kind of wrap up here. I want to wrap up here and ask you one last question. What is one piece of advice that Joanie would give someone who is standing on the edge of a new chapter, whatever that looks like for them, but they're just afraid to move?
So this one hits home. You really just have to go for it. Simple and easy, whether it's scary, whether you have it all planned out or not, because seriously, you cannot plan out everything. If it's in your heart and it's something that you truly believe would be the best move, you simply have to just go for it.
Just go for it. And that, Joanie, I'm going to end with telling you, you live that motto to a T. You are on the go, and that is a great name for you, because I have to believe that you were on the go even before you were RV traveling. So I know that name fits you. I want to thank you so much for taking time and us working through our technical difficulties to get this in, because I think that your story is going to be so relatable to so many women out there who are sitting on this edge of, what do I do? And how do I make that happen? So thank you for telling your story today.
I appreciate you, Joanie, so much. I'm honored to have been a guest on your podcast. So thank you.
And let me tell you, that is what this table is all about. It's about real conversations, honest moments, and reminding each other that we're really not alone in any of this. If finding something in this episode resonated with you, or you found yourself thinking, hey, they're talking and that sounds like me too, I hope you'll keep coming back, and make sure to hit subscribe, follow along, and share this episode with someone who might need the reminder that, you know what, it's never too late to stop postponing your life, because there's always a seat waiting for you at this table. And when women show up and be real and be raw and be honest and open, you know what? That's where the magic happens. So until next time, keep showing up, keep being real, and keep having the conversations that matter. And remember, you got this.